In this video, I'm showing you 3 old school drag cars that I spotted at the Danchuk Tri-Five Nationals in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Full disclosure, I was not able to make my normal weekend trip to the Tri-Five Nationals. I actually had to cancel my trip at the last minute. We had some medical issues come up that needed to be addressed, and those medical needs happened to be addressed in Nashville, Tennessee, which is just about an hour away. So after all that stuff was wrapped up, I actually went up to Bowling Green. It was the end of the day. The place was pretty much deserted, but there was still some cars to see, and I wanted to show them to you here. The first thing I saw was this 1955 Chevrolet. This is a 150 two-door sedan. This is absolutely as stripped down as you could get in terms of a factory-built car. And a lot of people use these for drag cars because they were the lightest. Well, this one, I can't tell exactly what it would have raced in, maybe just a bracket car from the 70s. It's kind of hard to tell, but this thing may have run in modified production. It could have run in Street Eliminator or one of the stock divisions. Who knows the history of this thing? Maybe someday I'll be able to find it, but I really like the look of this car. It's got the original old paint. It's flaking and coming off, and just has a pretty cool patina to it. And the lettering that's on this car is actually new. That's not something that was on here for years and years. That's something that has been added recently. But you can still see some old school decals and different things on here that let you know that this was a legitimate drag car back in the day. Under the hood is a pretty rowdy small block. It's got a tunnel ram and 2 4s. The white fender well headers are just too cool. And then the only thing that's kind of out of place under the hood is this aluminum radiator. But the rest of this thing looks period correct. It also still has the spark plug holders that are still attached to the radiator support. Really cool little detail that would have been used back in the day, when you were checking your plugs between rounds. And then inside the car, you'll see that it's got some bucket seats. It's got an old school shifter sticking up. It's got a cast aluminum gas pedal, aftermarket steering wheel, a couple aftermarket gauges, and a tack. This thing is outfitted just like it would have been in the late 60s or early 70s. And it also has a 4-point roll bar in it, which was common back in the day. The next thing that caught my attention is a car that I've actually photographed for a magazine article, and I plan to bring to you in a Hot Rod Hoarders episode in the future. This is the McMaster and Gunning 57 Chevrolet 4-door hardtop that ran in the junior stock division back in the late 60s and early 70s. This was a national record holding car, and it had all the tricks in the book when it came to stock eliminator drag racing. And it actually has an engine that was built by Bill Grumpy Jenkins. And these stock eliminator cars had a really strict set of rules. They couldn't do much to actually make much more horsepower than originally advertised, but they pulled all the tricks out for these things. And Grumpy Jenkins was known for making a small block Chevrolet run really good. The coolest thing about this car is that it's got the original paint job that was on it more than 50 years ago now. This thing is preserved beautifully. There's a few little imperfections here and there, but this thing is very, very nicely preserved. It almost fools you when you walk up to it because it looks like a restored car, but it's not. This is the original stuff. It's about as real as you can get when it comes to an authentic, original Survivor drag car. Sitting right next to it is another Gunning Brothers car. This time it's a 1957 Chevrolet station wagon. Now, 4-doors and station wagons were pretty popular in the stock eliminator category, especially in the lower ranks like would be considered the junior stock eliminator. These cars were very popular because of the weight bias. They were popular because they got a little bit different handicap in terms of the advertised weight of the car and the advertised horsepower of the car. Now, this is a tribute car to the Gunning Brothers original build, which actually came before the 4-door hardtop that we just looked at. So this was the car that they ran during the 1960s. Now you'll notice that it has a few custom body modifications. They smoothed out the bullets on the hood. They got rid of a few trim pieces, but ultimately this looks like a pretty stock 1957 Chevrolet. All 3 of these cars that I just showed you run and drive. They're not museum pieces. They get beat on all the time. And especially the 2 junior stock cars, those cars actually raced this year at the Tri-Five Nationals. Unfortunately, I was not there to see these cars make passes, but I have seen the McMaster and Gunning car make passes at previous Tri-Five National events. So I do hope to bring this car back and show you guys more information on it in a future episode, because it has a killer history and a killer story of how it all came back together and came back out onto the scene just a few years ago. So stay tuned for more content coming soon. Thank you for watching.